Sorry about that. Good morning. It's Friday or afternoon or morning. I don't know. I've been sleeping all week and I'm only up for about 45 minutes. I think the guys are here. It's today, a lot of the same. We get to talk about Biden. Blake, I think you're going to enjoy that, although it's nothing negative. So maybe not. The jobs report for the end of 2024 is in, and of course, more job growth. Protests against Elon Musk and DOGE are happening all over the country. And, obviously, I think it's about time. We've had the first firing within the Trump administration. He's all of 25 years old. Lots of experience there, I'm sure. And then the smoke and mirrors by Trump and also his buddy, Steve Bannon. Let's bring the guys out. Hopefully they're feeling better than I am. What's happening, boys? Here's our Mexican guy back from oh,
I deported myself, man. I
Yeah.
called ICE and I was like, I need a free trip.
Yeah, there you go.
Smart move.
I know, man. I needed a free
How'd you
trip,
get back
so
home?
I went down to Mexico. Gents, we have a lot to talk about today. I'm excited because I know where Jurg's going to stand on this, and I really wanted to argue with somebody. And I wish he wasn't sick, but I'm going to beat the hell out of him, even though
Go
he's
ahead.
sick.
No, I'm here.
I'm excited because I've had to do it for the last couple of weeks, so I'm happy to have some help.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, you got it, man.
Tough.
I even wore my Down with Anderson shirt because I kind of envisioned myself. This is me, and this is Jurg's just laying down here, just messed up.
That's where I've been all week. Is London.
Yeah, didn't just the flu got you?
I actually had to play a best of for Wednesday show. I couldn't get out of bed.
Did you guys see my comments? I was watching you guys 2 Fridays ago.
I might have missed that. I don't often have the thing up, the chat or anything in front of me.
Oh, that's fine. I was just sitting there hanging out in Mexico, sipping some Mexican coffee and listening to you guys go back and forth. And I was like, oh, I kind of missed this. Did I call in?
Where in Mexico?
Mexico City.
Nice.
what was there?
I've never been.
Underrated city. Underrated.
Yeah.
I've heard it's
Oh,
really cool. I've watched some like travel shows about it, and I think I've watched
Look, there's this little,
somebody feed Phil, and I was like, oh, I need to go there.
there's this little spot in the middle of it. There's a couple of districts you would call them, maybe Roma, Roma Norte, Roma Sur, Condesa, and Centro, and like around that area. And it's like where there's colonization, obviously, but it's like old like European architecture, small walkable streets, a lot of great restaurants. I mean, their temperature there, a lot of people don't realize that Mexico City's 7,500 feet above sea level. So it's like 50% higher than Denver. And so
Really?
oh yeah. And so, but it's down there by the like very close to the equator. So it's almost just 75 and sunny all the time. It's like where it's supposed to be hot, but it's also 75 and sunny. And so it's just a beautiful place just to go and hang out. No, it doesn't rain much. And so I don't know, man, it's just an underrated city. And so you can go get down there from Cleveland. It's only about a 6-hour flight with a 3-hour with a layover in the middle. So getting down there is super easy. And then, while you're there, everything's pretty affordable. So
Dallas?
Yeah, through Dallas, through Charlotte or Dallas coming from Cleveland.
Yeah, so it's probably like less than a 4-hour flight for me then. Yeah, because
there's almost no reason for people in the States not just to say, hey, if I want to go to a big international city, go to Mexico City.
Yeah, it's definitely on my list of places I want to go with my wife sometime, just because, like I said, I've seen a few food shows that were done there, and I was like, okay, because that's what I want to do when I'm out of town. Like priority number one is I want good food I can't get here.
Yeah,
wherever I'm at. So if I'm going to Boston, I'm eating, lobster and seafood and all that kind of stuff all the time. If I go to New York, I'm getting New York specific stuff, and Mexico City has certainly piqued my interest for such a thing.
And if you're getting kielbasa or
that was my
pierogies.
first foreign trip in Secret Service, and that was probably the dirtiest city I've ever been in.
Mexico City?
What year was this though?
2001.
Yeah. I would I would say that it does have its dirty parts, but also doesn't have its dirty parts.
We were at, it was the Sheraton right at the Circle where that big statue, the gold statue is.
Yeah, well, it's not gold anymore; it's bronze. I mean, it's green now.
It's green now, so it's new then.
Okay, bronze. But we were told not to go running outside because it would be like smoking 2 packs a day.
Yeah, it's still very polluted over there. The pollution is
that we probably wouldn't make it back the most direct route because the taxis are all essentially pirates.
I think it's a different city. It was very safe. There is pollution. I think it's mostly dust from cars, running around. It's a dry city, so it doesn't rain, so the pollution doesn't get. It reminds me of a lot of Beijing around that time.
I was going to say it's very heavily populated too.
Right? But yeah, 21 million people.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
Yeah, it's about 23 million people too many.
So would you say that's how many?
I said it's 23 million people too many.
Wow.
Yergs is a loner.
Yeah.
That's having a loner. He's talking about wiping out 1 million people.
Ethnic cleansing. Yergs, good job. Well, that's going to be the headline on this. Yergs calls
Trump 2028
for ethnic cleansing. For taking out Mexicans, calling ICE.
Yeah.
Yergs, you're supposed to be the person on the left on the show, aren't you?
No, that's you.
Well, I don't know about that, bro. You definitely graduated. You took my seat.
So I just saw this morning. The new jobs report is out, I guess, for the end of 2024. I didn't even look at it yet, so I might even have the wrong date. No, actually,
it was for January 2025.
It's January's, so I guess that's part Biden, part Trump.
Yeah, I mean the White House is essentially on autopilot when it comes to December and January. They're not doing a lot,
right? Yeah. If you ask Trump, though, that's going to be all his jobs that he created. Biden had nothing to do with it.
This is every president, though. If it's good news, it's my fault. If it's bad news, it's someone else's fault. This is politics 101, and that's just what we expect now. Never does anyone own the problem.
We're all happy that the unemployment rate is down to 4%. Trump was happy in Trump 1.0 that it was at 10%.
Yergs, that was during COVID. It's not the same thing. Again. You cannot bring up COVID. You cannot bring up 2020 and compare those numbers to any other time other than 2020. You just can't do it. It's not fair.
I'm not saying, okay, fine.
It was not 10% until March of 2020. It was not February 2020 was great.
Be happy about it.
Well, but I'm saying you can't blame Trump for it. You can't blame anyone other than COVID. That's the only. So you can blame the Wuhan Institute of Virology that might have leaked it.
He's the one that called COVID a hoax.
I don't care. It doesn't matter. We all know it wasn't a hoax. It doesn't matter what he said. We know that the jobs were because we shut down the economy.
Who mattered the most didn't know it.
But you're the one that said we should have lost. I mean, you're saying that unemployment rate should have been 100%, Yergs. You're the one that said we should have shut down the whole country for a month. So you know what I mean? So you would want that. You would want that number to be higher.
I don't want that number to be higher.
You do. No, your policy is that you want that to be higher.
Okay. If it's okay for Trump to say right now that inflation is going to be higher while we put these tariffs in, meanwhile, he is the only one that thinks the other countries in the world are the ones that pay the tariffs.
Oh, let's have a conversation about tariffs. I will be on your side all day about tariffs, but you're talking about the unemployment rate, which is something totally different. And I'm saying your policy.
If you and I are on the same side, Matt's going to be sitting there picking at his arm and be bored out of his gourd.
I have a feeling we'll all be on the same side on the tariff stuff, probably. There's some nuance there, probably.
There's nuance there.
We're
picking at my arm. That really sounded gross here.
I'm just saying the unemployment rate would have been higher if you got your way and you shut down the entire economy for a month.
Absolutely, it would have been. And I'm not for that, but I am for wiping out COVID immediately and 100%.
Why no? So then why are you bringing up the 10% unemployment rate in 2020 and saying it's a bad thing? And Trump's fault?
That's good. I would not have said the 100% unemployment rate was a good number.
Okay, that's fine.
I would have said it was a necessary number and a very temporary number. He said none of that with regards to the 10%.
I mean, I just
Sure.
feel like anytime we bring up numbers from 2020, it's not a fair comparison. Whether you're looking
I
at
agree. It's just
crime,
not a fair compare. It's
unemployment,
just not fair.
inflation, any of it, it's
It's
a
kind of like
once in a
it's kind of like
century.
when they bring up the numbers that Trump lost all those jobs and then Biden brought them all back in
Yeah.
2020. Got it. And it's just like he created. Then they show that chart. It's like Trump lost 600,000 jobs. Biden created 720,000. And it's just like,
Or my
come
other
on,
favorite one. My
y'all.
other favorite one is when people look at the profits of companies compared like year over year from 2020 to 2021 and look at these
Yeah,
record profit increases.
insane.
It's like, dude, they
Like,
were
guys.
losing their asses for like all of 2020. Like, or the billionaires made this much money. It's like, yeah, well, they lost half their wealth too when the pandemic started. So you got to look at
It's
you
just
got to look at
take
all
those
the
2 years
numbers.
out and just like then start comparing. And I think
Yeah.
actually the year 2020 and even 6 months leading up into 2020 and then like even 2022 is for some things are not really comparable because Biden shows job growth in 2021, which was like again like 650,000 or something.
Yeah.
And then 2022 was still 300,000. And it's just like, well, because things are opening up, people are still rehiring, the economy is improving, and it's just a horrible comparison.
Yeah, to me, when you have something like COVID that's like going to change all those numbers drastically, you don't start comparing numbers until they get to where they were before the pandemic. That's to me the fair thing to do. You go, okay, when is the unemployment the same as it was before? Now we can start going, okay, now the up and down matters. But yeah,
Imagine
that's the hard part.
Imagine if you were
about
paying them off of like job, like some kind of job metric, and it's like create all kinds of jobs. So like then you pay Biden a bonus on all those jobs he created. There's no way you would do that.
No, there's
like,
no
company would no CEO in the company would sign off on that check of like, wait a minute, you're trying to tell me he's gonna get paid on this kind of like gross revenue or something like that after we closed down for 6 months and then we reopened. Come on.
That's where things get really tricky. But yeah, I mean, it's good. The unemployment numbers are good. Although, I mean, I do wish we measured unemployment slightly differently because I do think we need to, at some point, as more and more people leave the workforce and say that they're not looking for work. So these are the people that are like my age, living with their parents, have no intention of getting a job, but it's not because they can't. It's not like because they're disabled and on Social Security or something like that. I think we do need to have a metric for that because that is one way we fudge these unemployment numbers is by we ask, do you want a job and you can't get a job? And those are the only people we're counting in that 4%. And that makes some sense because in the past, economically, we don't want to look at retired people because we don't want to count them as unemployed. That's not the same thing. And we don't want to look at children either, or for example, adults who are in college at the time. We don't want to count those people in unemployment numbers. But I do think we should look at people that are not getting educated, they're not retired, but they're also not looking for work. They're essentially either mooching off someone, the government, they're mooching, someone they're mooching off of. I think we need to have a better idea of that part of the workforce because I think we need to know what part of our workforce is not in it, but should be because they're able-bodied, because that's causing problems with Medicare, Social Security funding, all this kind of stuff when we don't have those people paying into that system and potentially taking out of it in the future too.
There you go. Look at you.
Stopping. Right, we've solved that problem, Yorks. Move us on.
Solved.
Yeah, I was going to say, without having to put the Blake timer up or any other visual to get his attention.
There's a lot to talk about.
There's a lot to talk about. Exactly. Solved. Right, next.
I was actually editing our list to talk about, and hold on a second. Okay. So, oh God. I slept in till 10:15 today. That's how.
You lost a little chest over the last couple of weeks. Yeah, I'm sorry. We were talking about your sleeping, but I'm talking about my chest. So
yeah. Oh, I've lost lots of chest over the past 2 years since I've been in a gym. Yeah.
But isn't that where all the men's are? Isn't that where you should be going there more often?
Yeah, not where I live. No.
Oh.
Not where I live. It's not pretty. I mean, I guess depending on what you're looking for, but I'm looking for guys that would actually be interested in return. So I don't waste my time.
I don't even want to know. Go. Never mind. Stop. Go. Continue.
What?
You said interested in return. Was that like you say? You mean give and take?
I don't want to know.
I don't want to know.
Also gay. I'm not one of those gays.
I mean, of course. I mean, that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about not gay people.
Yeah, but I live in Trumpsville. There ain't any.
Right. I forgot that there's no gay Republicans, Yergs.
Yeah, right. You just Grinder, bro. You'll be fine. They're the hidden ones. They're the closets.
Not good looking ones.
You know what? You have to remodel your house, don't you, because of that flood? Why don't you just put in more closets and then maybe you can.
I'm still
working on it.
Hell yeah! See that little hole right there? Turn that into a closet. You can put like a little closet Republican right in there.
That hole, that wall, that's my old bedroom.
Yeah,
if you're talking about the hole,
3 or 4 closet Republicans in there.
If you're talking about the hole that's in the door, my son did that one day when he was pissed off.
Yikes! Calm down, big guy.
Yeah. I forget what I told him he couldn't do.
I mean, I can't say that I didn't hit a wall or two when I was a teenager.
I don't know if I ever. I mean, I'm sure I've hit inanimate objects for sure, but they're normally things that I know I can't break and tend to hurt me more than I hurt them.
I don't know what it is with this camera, but every time I pick it up, it's the camera comes back down crooked, and it's like rock solid in the.
Yeah, you know how to fix that?
Yeah, I gotta adjust it again.
Don't pick it up.
Yeah, don't pick it up. All right, what's next? What are we fighting about next?
Oh, well, I get up and I feel like, oh yeah, I feel good today. Yeah, no. I'm trying to find my list that I texted you guys about. Oh, so we've had a firing already.
Not a firing. He resigned.
Oh, stop.
Was this the DOGE kid?
If we're going to talk about news stories, I think it is important that we get the details right, Yergs. He did resign. I mean, yes. I mean, I'm sure someone asked him to potentially, yes. But he resigned. There's a difference.
When you're told resign or be fired, I mean, you're even asked on job applications today.
And we don't know if that happened. We don't. There's no indication that he was asked to resign. But he did resign. So, let's just report the facts. He did resign.
Do you realize who you're sticking up for?
I'm not sticking up for anyone. I'm saying let's lay out the facts as they are and not speculate stuff that we don't know.
So wait, are you talking about that kid from DOGE or no?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. The kid from DOGE.
Oh, that's not news in my opinion.
I kind of agree. Seems like the system worked.
Imagine somebody you hire with some BS in their background and some stuff.
I knew you both were going to say this and not realize the actual issues that are at play here.
Okay, tell us the issue.
This kid had an all-access security clearance that he does not deserve having.
That a judge approved. A judge approved it.
This is why you do a background check. You don't get an approval from a judge because they don't know what a background check is.
Well, that's just not how the system works.
I'm pretty sure judges know how background checks work.
I've had a security clearance for 25 years. I'm pretty sure I know how the system works.
Well, I know, but I mean, this guy got a security clearance. I mean, are you saying he didn't get it legitimately?
Clearance because Donald Trump said he got a security clearance.
No, a judge gave it to him.
Not because he had a background investigation. Do you know what that costs? For you to get a security clearance right now, how much money is going to have to be paid to make that happen?
That's not how that works in the executive branch. Yes,
it is. Yes, it is. The entire staff of the president gets investigated by the Office of Personnel Management and the FBI. Everybody. And what's happened in the past.
Okay, but hold on. It's not a security.
No, I'm not. I'm still talking.
Okay.
What's happened in the past is that because presidents pick decent people to be in those spots, they pass the security check. Trump comes along and picks slime like Jared Kushner, who could not get blessed, according to the FBI and the CIA. And he gets it anyway because daddy-in-law says so.
This was not a security clearance. It was access to the payment system, a payment system at the U.S. Treasury. So it is different. We don't know. I've not seen anything that says this guy had a security clearance or didn't. So let's stick with the facts. The facts are a judge gave him access to a payment system, but said
access like that anywhere in government is a security clearance. There are different levels.
Access to a payment system is different than classification.
Like that, if he has something that's administrative like that, he has my social security number right now.
He has access to it, but the judge also restricted his ability to share data from the system.
After he was already in the system, it doesn't matter anymore.
In all fairness, your social security is probably leaked 10 times in the past 3 years.
and thorough background check for the levels necessary on everyone. This
Okay.
guy was a hacker.
Hey, payment systems are not the
Russian
same as
spy.
classification systems. They're not the same thing.
Stop. You don't know what you're talking about.
I do know they're not the same thing.
I don't care what Google search you've got in front of you.
I'm not doing Google searches. I'm doing the news article you sent me.
I did these background checks.
You don't need a background system.
This is what I did for 2 years.
Background checks and systems are different, Yergs. I get that background checks.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
Okay, move on. Why does it matter? I don't care.
Why does it matter? Then tell me why it matters.
It doesn't matter. This is you're arguing about something that does not matter.
Into the Secret Service.
Who cares?
Get the same investigation that everybody else does.
Who cares?
For that lower level.
What about the Treasury? Okay, but what about U.S. Treasury? I mean, I know U.S. Treasury is part of obviously Secret Service.
The Central Intelligence Agency is the one that determines what is classified at what level, and that includes administrative access for things like the Office of Personnel Management and other HR type things, because everybody in the federal government is in the federal government.
So what's the process where a judge gets involved?
They are a target. That means that they are a target for espionage. That doesn't matter how high up they are.
Right, but what is the judge involved? Like, explain to me why a judge would be involved in this.
Getting there. Shut the hell up.
Well, I mean, get to it then. Tell me what the difference. Why is the judge involved?
Interrupting. You don't know what you're talking about.
I'm asking you to tell me what you're talking about.
And stop.
I'm going to show until you guys learn how to talk, communicate properly. This is really.
I did this. This is what I did.
Okay, then tell me how the judge gets involved.
Because that's the only way that they could stop somebody like Elon Musk and company for doing this illegally, which is what they've been doing since day one.
If a judge approves something, is it illegal anymore or no?
It could still be. Look at the Supreme Court.
But as far as our legal system goes, if a judge approves of something, and obviously, yeah, if this was like a circuit judge or this was a civil case or something like that, yes, it could go then to the next court. So it's going to go to a court of appeals if it's appealed or something. But this doesn't sound like an appeal kind of situation. This sounds like a judge approved that he could have access to a system as long as he was bound to not share the data from the system.
I don't know what judge you're talking about.
Is that not normal? I'm asking.
I'm going to mute you, dude.
I'm asking if that's normal. What's the process?
I'm not asking. I'm trying to answer your first question.
Okay.
I don't know what judge you're talking about. I don't care. Any employee that comes into the federal government gets a background investigation of some sort based on their need to know. This kid didn't need to know anything for what he had access to. They were supposedly trying to find waste. If they're trying to find waste and they find a couple $2 billion of waste in USAID, do you have any idea what a small percentage that is in our?
Oh, yeah, it's tiny. I mean, it's budget? Like the whole budget of USAID is less than 1% of the entire federal budget. Yeah.
Why would you not start maybe in the Defense Department?
Because
there's waste in the military. I don't know that, but it's a hell of a bigger budget, and there's probably a better chance of substantial waste being found.
Oh, you're absolutely right about that, Yergs. But the reason why is because Donald Trump told them they couldn't look at the Department of Defense, they couldn't look at Social Security or any entitlements.
He didn't want that.
Of course,
he was getting rid of DOGE, he was getting rid of USAID, whether there was waste or not. This kid had no intention of finding waste.
You don't know that.
No, we don't know that.
You don't know that.
We don't know that, and also we don't. That has nothing to do with why he got. Who
made my argument for me? Trump. It's called common sense.
In what way?
This kid had no intention. None of those people had any intention of really finding waste.
I don't know.
They knew what they were looking for already. They come up with some story about $50 million in condoms to Hamas.
Yeah. Well, here's where things get tricky. I think you're right, Yergs, in the sense that I think this is an ideological war that they're doing with the USAID thing specifically, and not they're trying to give some red meat to their supporters to say this is the stuff that government is spending your money on that we think is,
and they're lying.
No, they are. I mean, on some of this stuff. Now, not all of it.
Somebody used that in some Facebook argument. They said, "Oh, my tax dollars are going to this," and I'm livid. And I said, "Well, here's actually what's happening."
It is nuanced for sure. I mean, yeah.
And they said, "Well, I don't want my tax dollars going to condoms." So I sent them the article where it was fact checked by like 3 different agencies, sending that less than $40,000 in all of USAID was spent on condoms, and none of it went to Hamas.
Yeah, I think
zero.
I think the problem. Here's the problem that I think there goes with this is that like USAID you're right. You're right. It's like less than 1% of the budget. You could cut the entire thing. It's not going to make a dent in the debt. It's not going to make a dent in the deficit at all. However, I think what's going on here is that, I mean, it's pretty obvious what's going on here is that this is about the ideological wins that Trump is getting out of this by saying, look, we shut down. And yeah, some of it they're exaggerating. Now, I think that's foolish because they don't need to exaggerate. There is actually plenty of stuff that is fraudulent and wasteful and things that we shouldn't be spending money on that USAID thing, including sending funding to the Wuhan Institute of Virology for gain of function research after, and that being shut down because that could have been the way that this leaked, this whole COVID thing happened. And like, that's a fair thing for American citizens to say, we don't think that's a good use of our taxpayer dollars. We think that's dangerous and it shouldn't happen. I think that's like a fair bucket. There's plenty of stuff that I think people can go, this is waste. Then there's plenty of stuff that Trump is exaggerating. For example, the thing this week has been, oh, look at all this money that went to Politico and New York Times and stuff. And they're pretending that the government is funding this left-wing media stuff, when really what's happening is that it was Politico Pro. It's like congressmen like getting access to, it's like people getting access to subscriptions to data on policy stuff. This is like Lauren Boebert was complaining about it, and her staff spent $8,000 on Politico subscriptions last year. So you're like, so that's a Republican doing the same thing. It's like you want your staff that's writing legislation and needing to keep up with legislation to have that access, which, by the way, Politico Pro is not the same thing as Politico, the news website we go to. That is like a comprehensive database of policy and policy proposals and things like that. It's way more wonky. It's for wonky people that work in Washington. That's the stupid stuff that, yeah, right. Like, why lie about that? It's stupid. It's not what you're saying it is. And this is why this is an ideology thing. I'll
make my comments after the commercial break, since we're going to commercial break.
Yeah, I got to take a break.
And I haven't been able to say anything because you guys have been yelling at each other about BS.
Yeah. Well, I didn't even tell you why this kid never should have had a job yet in the first place, but we'll get to that too. 99.1 WDJY, America One Radio. And by the way, we are no longer on Tan Talk. That last episode was last Friday. We're just not getting from it what we need to be to make it worth $150 a week to produce the show with them. So we'll come back when we get a bit better sponsors, more, not better, but more sponsors, and can afford to be every day of the week like we should be. 1400 and 107.1 KSHP Las Vegas, WZQR Pineland, Florida. We'll be back here, I think. There we go.
What are you doing later? I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm going to the gym, but not just any gym. Momentum Fitness and Wellness. Walk right up to the door. There's a QR code on the door. You can sign up right there. You've got no excuse. But not only that, their equipment is amazing. It's kept up well. It's expanded. There's stretching area. There's CrossFit. There's hardcore training. A dedicated area for stretching, dunk tanks, sauna, everything you need to get that Hernando beach body or keep your Clearwater beach body. You can train with your shirt off, you can scream, you can yell, and you won't be intimidated either. Go to Momentum Fitness and Wellness on US 19 in Bayonet Point, Jasmine Estates. Build the momentum.
Are you back? You're muted.
Yeah. Well, also, I got to do a live spot too. But did you guys hear the whole commercial Okay.
Yeah, but now I've got music in the background.
Did you guys hear that whole commercial? Yeah.
Yeah, we heard the commercial. Can you hear us?
I've been doing that for like the live spots. Yeah. Yeah, but it's on my end, it was very, very broken.
It sounds like you're on a delay too.
Really? Okay.
You look. Yep, it looks about in 3 seconds.
Yeah, that's got to be. Yeah, I just really like my whole system is like reacting very slow to everything that I'm doing.
Okay, your delay's gone. By the way, it was that music. The music slowed it down.
Yeah, it was like it was processing.
Your closet porn music.
Yeah, but there's a lot that's anyway.
I bet there is.
Philip Blackett on Wednesday. He had this past Wednesday off. You can go to, but hold on, hey. Yeah. Like everything is really slow right now.
Yeah, it's a little laggy.
Check out his books on Amazon. That's the QR code that's going to be at the bottom of your screen eventually. And then also in the top corner is the merch. I don't have his mug with me today, but I got 2 mugs, and there's some sleeveless shirts, Matt. You can use them in stuff that I would have used back in the day, but I'm too old for that now. Yeah, so buyblackett.com/Yergs for 15% off. And get some cool USA merch. It's not pro Trump, it's pro USA. So that's, and just kind of buyblackett.com/Yergs. Check that out and let us know what you think. All right. So to wrap up the other one, dude was, before he went to work with Twitter, which is where Elon got the dude, he was a hacker. He was actually online selling his services as a hacker, like the original definition of hacker, where somebody who actually fixed your problems, your IT broke into systems and did network intrusions. And on top of that, and then there's the now almost 10-year-old racist tweets and other posts where he says, who hires a guy like that? But here he is inside the Treasury Department with all kinds of God knows what else he's doing. That's why and one of the connections, by the way, and I'm abbreviating in the interest of time, but one of his connections right away was Russian. I mean, does that sound vaguely familiar? Who knows? Maybe this guy was around 10 years ago.
Can I get my 2 cents now on this?
Yeah.
Or do I have to hear you and the homeless conservative go back and forth for another 45 minutes?
Matt, tell us.
Go ahead.
Thank you. All right, so here's my 2 cents on that specific situation. Number one is, can we please stop calling him a kid? Because I think that this is like degrading to a 25-year-old, and I just pulled it up of like some of the biggest 25-year-olds in history. We have Zuckerberg, who was a billionaire at 23. We have the founder of Snapchat, billionaire at 25, co-founder of Snapchat at 22, Vitalik Buterin, 19. The list goes on and on of different people that have been very successful and very achieving at 25. So can we just stop downplaying and saying, "Oh, he's 25, doesn't know anything"? That's just that's not progressive.
Because
that's not good.
At 23 and at 25, they weren't sending out the types of tweets that he was doing and hiding it.
And let me go. Wait for a second. Second of all, but this is not. This goes back to my
black web. They were.
I don't know what you were doing at 23, Yergs, because we don't have your access to your text messages.
I was
but
in minor league baseball,
and you were probably sending D pics to somebody on Grindr, and it's fine. But that's not the point.
We had to go.
That's not the point.
AOL chat back in my day. We had to go in AOL chat back in my day.
Yeah, then you set up a Skype. I understand.
I think that's a good thing to think about. Like, did you do anything stupid in your early 20s? I think we probably all did, stupid. Right?
Not that stupid. No.
Not racist for sure, but I mean, I did stupid stuff that I wouldn't want plastered on.
Back in high school, that I wanted to get into professional sports and or law enforcement.
But here's the thing. Wait.
When I had my background check,
I just cannot finish like a thought in 37 minutes. Oh, I can make a joke every once in a while, but I can't finish an actual thought. Can I?
Don't ask me a question.
I didn't ask you a question. Yergs, I don't ask you a question.
If I did anything stupid.
I make fun of you. I make fun of things, and then you chime in trying to clarify it. I don't ask questions. But okay, so let's take the 25 thing out of there, because I hate downplaying young people because they're younger than us. Everybody's younger than me at this point, Yergs, especially you.
Yeah. You know what? I'm 53 years old.
I didn't ask you a question again, Yergs.
Well, I'm just
didn't ask you a question.
I'm 53 years old, and my parents still call me that I'm their kid.
That's different.
53.
Yeah,
that's different.
Yes, that is different. Anyway, second thing is people have things in their background that come up all the time, and this happens in corporations, it happens in companies, as a government, happens probably in Secret Service. You know what happens is you get the opportunity to get fired or resign, and that's exactly what happened. So it's like, why are we even talking about this? Oh my God, hey, he said some racist stuff. That's not a good look for us. That's not the person that we want to hire. What happened? You fire, resign, he resigned. Yeah. Case closed.
I don't think it reflects on a whole organization if one person that they find out about bad stuff in their past, they find out about it and the person resigns. I don't think that's a stain on the organization. I don't think that's fair. And the Free Press, by the way, Matt, has a great article about the 20-something people that
on the organization.
Look, there's this.
Here's why.
No, the stain on the organization.
Found that out if they would have vetted the person properly in the first place, Elon Musk said he did.
Well, and part of that is true. He tried to pull in someone that had a visa, and they didn't let him in.
And those are from deleted tweets, by the way. He deleted those tweets, and they found deleted tweets. Look, I don't really care how this works. That's exactly how it's supposed to.
Tweets, deleted or not, they found tweets.
The system works.
So even if you did a background check and you did a comb over and you're like, oh, okay, this looks okay. You find something later, you fire the person. That's how it works.
And I'm surprised to see you taking this position, Blake, because this is the whole left side position that, let's just sit around the campfire and sing Kumbaya and it'll work itself out. No. There are systems in place for a reason.
There's all kinds of systems in place, and
they are given access.
And part of the systems is what do you do if this comes up in the future?
No,
you fire them or they resign.
It needs to be found first.
It doesn't always work that way, and it doesn't work that way. And like I said, I need to know more about what the actual do they have classified access? Do they not? Do they have security clearances? Do they not? Do you need a security clearance to be in the specific payroll department system that they are in? Those are questions that I don't have the answers to.
I do.
All right, but I would like you to cite your source on that, though.
They did have all access, and it was taken away.
Oh, Blake,
it's too late. You have no idea what they've done already. Until here's people.
Okay, well, let's talk about DOGE for a second, because I think it's worth talking about. I believe there are. Here's the tricky, fuzzy part with what DOGE is doing. I believe that constitutionally, the president of the United States has full power to do what he wants to do within the executive branch, as long as the law that Congress passed to give him that agency doesn't say he can't do that. So, for example, if Congress says we're going to create the FDA and the FDA has a mandate to do X, they're supposed to approve, they're supposed to test and approve drugs before they go to market. That's something the FDA has to do. The president can't tell the FDA they can't do that part of their job, because Congress has made it by law and statute. Okay, the FDA has to do what we created the FDA to do, and we're giving it this funding to do. But other than that, I think the president has complete control to hire, to fire, to move money around when it's discretionary spending. I think they have complete control over that. Because he is the Constitution lays out that he is the executive branch. Everything flows out of the executive branch from the president. That's how we set it up constitutionally. Now, he does not have the ability to eliminate the FDA, for example.
For the second time in 6 months, you just lost your argument that you only elect the president and the vice president. You don't elect the people that come with them.
No, I mean, but you don't. I mean, we don't elect those people. But that person, we are electing that person to be in charge of hiring and firing those people. Now,
which is exactly what I said.
No, but with the cabinet, there is a constitutional thing that says the Senate gets to approve. So it's not completely. We do have a check there. So there is a check that happens when we're saying that. So
and what is your opinion on presidential cabinet members, secretaries, that he should get a blank slate, and unless there's some egregious.
I think the Senate should do their job
anytime he's got to think, he's got to take a sip and step back from the mic a little bit because he knows I've got him.
No, it's not a gotcha thing. I'm trying to tell you what my opinion is, and trying to deal with the nuance. The nuance is, yes, I believe generally when you elect a president, I think that if the people elect a president, they're saying, I trust this person to fill their cabinet. And I think if they fill them with bad people that don't do a good job, that then falls on them. That's a reflection on the president. But I've said is that I think the Senate's job is to say this person is disqualified potentially from being it. Like I said, I think that there's enough information on RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, and Kash Patel to say these people are disqualified from this job based on the opinions that they have said over and over and over again that are clearly anti being able to do this job. That's the Senate's thing. Now, I still say, if someone had the opinion of we're going to give him who he wants and let him hang himself with his own rope that he's given him, I'd be sympathetic to that. But if I were a senator, I would vote no on people that disqualified themselves. But I wouldn't vote no on like Pam Bondi, for example, just because she won't say that the 2020 election wasn't stolen. I think it's ridiculous that she doesn't do that. But I'd be like, you know what? She's definitely qualified for this job as far as being an attorney general and going to be the United States attorney general, state to federal. That makes sense. So my point is that the president has the right to send anyone he wants into. And by the way they structured DOGE, just so you guys know, is that there was an Obama presidential created executive agency. It was like the digital information. And basically they were created to clean up systems, to try to have efficiency in these systems and stuff. Donald Trump, his lawyers, not Donald Trump, basically had DOGE take that over. And it's a temporary program which allows for less transparency because it's not Freedom of Information Acts that go through Congress because it's a Presidential Records Act. And then the other thing it does is lets him hire those people quicker because there's a sunset date on the agency. So it doesn't have to go through the same security thing, maybe not security things, but some of the same personnel prerequisite stuff that other agencies have to be involved with, like Congress. And so that is how they're getting around this. And it is legal because they took over a thing that Obama created. Now we can talk about if we want the executive branch to have that power, that's fine because Congress could take that away from them potentially. But this was created legitimately. And that's probably the reason they are skirting some of these oversight things is because of the way that they legally framed the agency. My point is that Donald Trump, as the executive of the executive branch, has the right to go into every system within the Treasury Department that he has control over and look under the hood. And I think that especially because these people are not getting paid, there's another tricky part of this service is that they're essentially volunteering their time to do this. It makes it very tricky, like employee-wise. But this worked out. And so I think, but he doesn't have the right to shut down USAID because Congress funded it. It's not working. So that is where that's where the rubber hits the road.
This part of what you're saying, because one of my two dogs, I don't know why.
I was just saying he has the right to go in and look under the hood of USAID, but he doesn't have the right. He doesn't have the constitutional right to eliminate USAID entirely because Congress has created it and given it budgetary.
Yeah.
But I do think he would be better off spending his time doing some stuff.
I'm going to take some of the platforms out that there are a few people on right now because there's a huge delay from everybody. Like Blake, like there's a couple seconds difference, but I had to run for a second because I heard my dog like screaming outside, and I don't know, I think she's still in heat. Anyway, there's you're a person of faith. You know, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away, not Jesus, the Lord. And when Congress gives that, Trump can't just come in and say, this is done. And that's what's happening.
Well, unfortunately, he can't if Congress lets him. I mean, I think the courts will have to step in at some point, but the problem is no one in Congress is wanting to take back that responsibility right now.
There you
That's
go.
part of the
You
problem.
finally said the whole thing. The whole thing. The whole point of everything that we should be talking about is how Congress advocated their power. I've been talking about this for 4 years, giving executive power to the executive branch, not doing the will of the people, excluding the responsibility of controlling the budget. And now we're in a situation where half the United States wants a rando dude to come in there, find Elon, to come in there and start cleaning things up because Congress hasn't done the job.
Yeah.
Half of the United States does not want if you're referring to Elon Musk or Donald Trump.
Well, I mean,
I'm referring to Trump, Musk, and DOGE. Yes,
and this was all clearly part of the plan. Yeah, this was part of the plan before November. This is not like a surprise.
And fine, I don't care if you say only 25% of the states say want it. I don't really care. The fact is that's what's happening because the power of Congress has been given away, and Congress can't do their job because they're feckless little bees.
Yeah, I mean that is exactly right, Matt. Because no one will stand up to their own party. That's the real problem.
They won't stand up to their own party. They won't stand up for with their constituents. They won't advocate for their job. So if they need to make a hard decision and a hard vote, they won't do it. And you know what that is to make sure that the budget was balanced, to make sure that they were spending responsibly, to look over the bills, to have their staffers use ChatGPT and put their PDFs of these 1,000-page bills and figure out what was getting spent on. That's what you're supposed to be doing. But you know what they're not doing is their job.
Yeah.
And then they said, and instead of taking the politically hard stances, they gave away their power. They said, you do it. They said, I don't want to touch this. We'll drag it on. We'll filibuster the decision. And that's what happens with money, with budgets, with geopolitics, with funding and wars and everything. And this is why everybody's so frustrated. So when it takes one person to come in there and say, hey, let me start at least looking at the budget, people are like, fine, at least somebody's doing something.
Yeah. And I think this is not that hard. I think it mostly boils down to if the Democrats would, for example, I think congressional Democrats over the last 4 years and Joe Biden could have, if Biden's mandate was to not be Trump, he could have reined in those executive powers. He could have said, hey, Congress, you need to be more specific about what the Department of Justice is supposed to do in law, so that if a bad president like Donald Trump comes in that wants to abuse that power, he can't. He's less likely to be able to do so.
And he did not do so.
And Republicans right now should do the same thing. There should be Republicans, and I promise you there are Republicans that are concerned about the overstepping of the constitutionality of some of what he's doing, but they will not speak up about it because it's about party loyalty before what's 100%. Right about the Constitution. And so these 100%. People are swearing to uphold the Constitution, and they are absolutely not. And it's Democrats and it's Republicans and it's. But what's weird is that in the House right now, you would only need one Republican, just one right now, to stand up and say, hey, this is not constitutional what you're doing, and therefore I'm not going to give you what you want. Now, it's interesting that Trump's not asking them to do any legislation because I think he knows that's a lot harder. You could also have one legislator that would say, hey, we need to codify this because all this executive order stuff is such BS because it is all undone by the next president that's a Democrat. Or, 100%. So if
look,
I've been saying that.
So I would.
So we're on agreement, but and this goes back to Obama in 2008 when Obama had big majorities in the House and the Senate, and we're still talking about abortion. Like that could have been solved, but no, it wasn't solved because of political will during the time. And again, with any of these things, Blake or yours, we don't have to agree with the outcome of the law or the outcome of the decision, but we can agree with the structure of who does what and who does not do what.
Yeah, or Biden in the last week. Yeah, he was saying that we should have term limits. We should have a note that Congress can't trade stocks. It's like, dude, you had the Democrat House and Senate.
4 years to say that. If you wanted to run on that, if we had running on that in 2024, then that would have been amazing.
And he could have passed that. He absolutely could have passed if Joe Biden in 2021 would have said, hey, we are going to pass a law that says Congress can't trade stocks or they have to put in blind trust or something where they can't touch it while they're in office. you don't. First of all, he had the House. So you get Democrats no matter what. He would have to get. What was it? Did they have 52 seats in 2021?
Yeah,
he has to get
Mikowski.
He's got to get 8 Republicans to agree with that. I believe he could have gotten. I believe he could have gotten 8 Republicans to go along.
I think he
could
have had. I think he could have had a couple more. But anyway,
yeah. But like you're right. There's no political will to actually do the right thing. It's better to have the fight. It's funny for Joe Biden to say that on the way out when he can't do it anymore. It's like, dude, you were president for 4 years. You could have done this.
It's so irresponsible. Honestly, it was laughably ironic.
Yes. I mean, especially that Nancy Pelosi is the one that got him kicked out.
I just want to bring up a question to both of you. Maybe when we go into our next hour, but I want to frame the question for that really quick, if you don't mind, Yergs.
Yeah.
But here's what I like this. I wonder if you see my screen. I'm sharing my screen with you. Yergs, you can put that on the screen. Yours has to click a button.
Okay. He can.
Yeah.
There you go. So a lot of people look at the U.S. debt clock, and I think that this is very important to take a look at. And I just want to ask the simple question: is when we're talking about how much runway do we have? We have we collect $5 trillion in taxes. We spend over $7 trillion a year in spending. That's a $2 trillion deficit every year. Our interest right now payments are about $1 trillion. And we can see like these are our major over here. We have Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and Defense as our 3 major expenditures. Our national debt is at $36.5 trillion. So at the end of the day, I just want to ask the simple question: is how long, without an audit, without with Congress doing their job, without having to tighten up our belts, if you will, do we continue to let that go? Do we get to $9 trillion in a $4 trillion deficit? Do we get to $40 trillion in national debt? Do we go to 50? When does the wheels come off? When does this break? And so I think the American people, when you're, I think when you said the 50% of the American people did not vote for this, I think 50% of the American people absolutely voted for, let's look at this. And if Congress isn't going to do it, who's going to do it?
Yeah.
While you were talking, the debt went up more than $1 million.
Oh, yeah. It's more, yeah.
Easy.
Just put this on the screen.
Yeah. It's like 200. It's like the federal budget's something like $273,000 per second or something. I can't remember the exact stat. I mean, it's something astronomical that you don't we don't really understand that like $1 million goes into $1 billion 1,000 times and $1 billion goes into $1 trillion 1,000 times. So when our debt is $36 trillion, that's that is an enormous.
I think it's a reasonable question. If we have
I remember during the Bush administration, it was $4 trillion,
and that was huge.
And I thought that was a lot.
Everybody was like, "Oh my God, we're
yeah."
But the wheels will come off of this sooner or later. Yeah. And I just want to ask everybody, and like when everybody says, but here's the thing that the conversation that's being had with honestly the left right now, it's like, don't cut this, we can't do this, this is important. Everybody says USAID is only 0.2% of the GDP, so it's like, but we're gonna have to cut $2 trillion to be in balanced budget, and that's not even talking about a surplus, and that's not even talking about getting down the debt. So don't tell me that this aid to this couple $1 million of aid to XYZ country is important. It's not really important in the grand scheme, because you're going to talk about a 20% cut across the board, or you're going to have to be very targeted and very specific about what's getting cut out of these budgets.
You have to deal with entitlements. You have to. That is
just the truth. And so, so if you want to talk about, I don't know, a play in Vietnam, or comic books over in Venezuela, or whatever it is, I don't care.
Now,
I don't care about that.
Here's some defense of USAID, by the way, is that there's quite a bit of stuff that's in there that is ridiculous and we shouldn't be spending money on. I agree. There is quite a bit of stuff in there that I think we should be. There's a bunch of stuff. What is it? PF? It was like a presidential executive order, I think, with I think it was under Carter or Reagan first, but basically it's specifically it's medical stuff. It's vaccines, it's HIV prevention. It's something that they estimate saves something like 26 million lives, like 26 million lives a year. And that is trying to give America a good name. Look, there's a reason that Chinese media and Russian media are celebrating us pulling out of USAID, because they want to swoop in there and they want to be the good guys that are providing the vaccines for the kids and stuff. This is a war of ideas between us and China and Russia, as much as it is economics or militarily or any kind of thing like that. So we need to be careful about where we cut. Like, I think it's well worth less than 1% of the budget to save 26 million kids from malaria and HIV and stuff like that.
Sure.
So let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Ted Kennedy said the same thing the other day. He said, look, I don't know what's all in these budgets and stuff like that, which he absolutely should, which is, I think, a weird thing to say.
Right.
And so he said some things are good and some things are bad. But the fact,
not Ted, he's dead, right?
Yeah, he's dead.
Sorry, who's the other guy?
RFK, maybe?
No,
Robert Jr.
Oh, shit.
Some Kennedy that we shouldn't be listening to, probably.
John Kennedy from Louisiana.
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah. Not that John Kennedy, but the other John Kennedy.
Right.
I got confused. I'm sorry.
There's
a lot of these Kennedys.
Yeah.
He's not related, by the way.
No, there's a crazy. Anyway, long story short is he said the same thing. But I think the American people, the fact, I think we have to really understand that no matter what we cut, there's going to be a fight from somebody. And just because there's a fight from somebody does not mean that we can't cut it or should not cut it. Or should not look at it, because it's always going to be a fight. Look, I've heard this already over here. It's like, well, are they going to touch the arts and ballet? Well, I don't know, but is that something that we're going to touch? Is it going to be grants for the dance or music? Is it be grants for development of underprivileged communities when it comes to different kind of programs? And it's like, okay, those are different things. And then we're going to talk about, entitlements and things. So it's like, no matter what you talk about, somebody's gonna be like, but what about this?
That's the thing I care about, right? Yeah.
The thing I care about, the thing that gives me like my, I don't know, my identity or whatever it is.
Yeah.
We're gonna lose a couple of affiliates here in a second, so I've got to cut in, let everybody know where you can get us all. Oh, there we go. That's attractive. Oh God. Don't forget the Capital Switchboard is 202-224-3121. Call your representatives, call your senators, give them your opinion of what's happening with DOGE and anything else that you've already researched on your own to figure out is very illegal. Jane Stahl can be found at studiobbb.org. Check out DNR Studios. We'll be starting there within the next month. Go to dnrstudios.com and get your prescription. Oh, I need another prescription. Get your subscription to their services. Matt can be found at thedailycryptonews.net. You can reach him by going to Matt at dailycryptonews.net and info@deemerforcongress.com. Blake is the Homeless Conservative. You can reach him at Blake at thehomelessconservative.com. You can get us all news, NEWZ, at Yergz, YERGZ.com. And for any other show notes and other info, go to yergz.com or mastiff.media. Stick around for hour number 2. We've got, what did you just send me? Kamala Harris interview is apparently more Trump BS, according to one of the sources I'm looking at. Matt sent me that, so I'll let you take over when we come back after this for the second hour. We'll see you in a little bit. Daddy needs coffee. was it at? There we go. All right. Welcome back. Hour number 2. Apparently, the transcript has been released to the FCC for the 60 Minutes interview that was allegedly edited. I have not checked into that further yet. I just knew that the FCC had inquired about it, which is now very much under control of Donald Trump. The FCC under Biden had inquired about it, and they dropped it. So, I mean, that should be telling. I'm seeing a bunch of different sources. Of course, Fox News is one of them. I think the biggest thing to remember going into this is that Trump did the same thing. If anything was done here by Kamala Harris's interview, Trump did the same thing. Remember when we were talking about the Epstein tapes and suddenly we went back and edited and cut some things out? Anyway, let's bring the guys back out. Hopefully they've got their coffee. I've got mine. IGM, I got my coffee. I already sent you guys pizza once. You can get your own coffee. All right, Matt. So this was yours, I think. You sent that to me first, right?
Quite possibly.
Yeah.
So anyway, what
Reason Magazine?
Yeah, I see you that.
That was Blake. Look, I think it was it's just very interesting. So as we all know, Harris did a 60-minute interview during the campaign. It was dropped as like finally sitting down with somebody and getting interviewed because she wasn't doing much interviews, and it came out that this interview was chopped up to around 23, 25 minutes, Blake, back when it dropped.
I think the problems arose with, not problems, Trump's claims of it being deceptively edited. And by the way, there are FCC statutes that say like what constitutes as being deceptively edited. So for example, that's why CBS News did get in trouble and Dan Rather had to resign, is because they knew what they were putting on the air about George W. Bush's National Guard service was incorrect, and they did it anyway. Right. That is different than what happened. And so that does not fall under deceptive editing. Deceptive editing would be you're trying to make someone say something they didn't say, or you're using an answer from another question and you're making it appear that they're answering a question. Like, that's deceptive editing. Right. The problem was that Face the Nation showed a different answer on her Israel thing. Basically, she had a 2-sentence answer that wasn't great because she's Kamala Harris and she's not great at saying things coherently. So they used the first sentence on the Face the Nation promo, and then in the 60 Minutes interview, they used the second sentence. And again, this is television. They've got to cut the whole show to 43 minutes. You might interview someone it happened on every 60-minute interview ever, is that they are doing a full interview and then they're cutting it down to length. They're just cutting down length. The problem was that as Trump starts accusing them of this, and to be fair, within the same 24 hours, we had someone else at CBS blow the whistle on with what's their morning show, where they were
CBS This Morning.
Yeah, and there was a problem with the guy that wrote, I forget his name, something Coates or something, that wrote some sort of book, and it was very anti-Semitic and stuff like that. And so they sort of had this flood of the president of CBS was pretty pissed off about some stuff. So it was kind of all of this happened in one weekend. The point was CBS would not release the transcript of the Kamala interview. And so this led to wild speculation about what were they hiding, is kind of the backstory of what happened here. So they finally released the transcript in February. I don't know why we couldn't have just gotten this that weekend. We could have saved us a lot of headaches, but there it is, the transcript. That was her exact answer. They just used one sentence for the Face of the Nation, another sentence for 60 Minutes, but it does follow his question. It's a nothing burger. Trump was lying, of course. Of course, to be fair, he didn't know he was lying. They didn't release the transcript. Just release the transcript and all this goes away. But now this is being used as a bludgeon tool to prevent a CBS and Paramount merger. And so now you've got gigantic piles of money involved. And so no one, they're trying to appease Donald Trump, and they'll probably settle this lawsuit with him just so they can get the approval of the merger, which is wrong, I think.
Yeah. Now, I did talk about this about 2 weeks ago. When I was solo, I think, and you're right. I think CBS looks to be bending over just so they keep the government happy, and the merger gets.
Yeah, so they get the merger, which I think ABC did the same thing. I mean, Matt, what do you think? I mean, do you think it's the settlements that we're getting, like libel or these kind of lawsuits, are very, very hard. The courts almost never ever side. They almost always side with the press. Look at I think the most egregious example is, I think Sarah Palin had a real case against the New York Times on the deceptive, they knew what they were putting in there was libel. Essentially, they knew that she was not, there was not a target on what's her name? Gabbard, not, I want to say Tulsi, but it's not. It's the one that got Gafford. They got shot.
Gifford.
Anyway, it was Gifford. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think she had a better case than anyone's had on a libel or defamation case in a long time, other than Dominion against Fox News, and they didn't rule in favor of Sarah Palin in that. So if they went to court, ABC's not going to lose this, CBS is not going to lose this, but they're settling. And what I don't like is that makes it look like they did something wrong. Do you think? I think this is bad for the press.
Yeah, no, and it's also, I think, a bad precedent. One of the things I was going to talk about today is the smoke and mirrors that Trump and Bannon continually are putting together, and that is that they came out with this rapid fire concept where we're talking about DOGE. We're talking about all these illegal firings. We're talking about so much at once.
Flood the zone.
Yes.
We can't.
Which is like Steve Bannon's. That's like Steve Bannon literally his like out loud has said that is the goal here, which is why I don't like that we spent 45 minutes talking about one guy that resigned from DOGE, because I think that that's a distraction and something that actually worked out, when there's actually stuff that's very unconstitutional, that's very illegal, that I think we're not paying attention to, because we're talking about Elon's Nazi salute last week or whatever.
Let's go back to the 60-minute thing, because I think that the bigger conversation around this is that it was edited. And it's not if you release the transcripts or don't release transcripts and you go, oh, well, it was kind of what she said or not what she said. We have new media that are coming out that aren't editing anything. Like the Joe Rogan interview was just Trump sitting down with Joe and Jamie in the room. And it was just him talking. And with Andrew Schultz and the Flagrant podcast, he was sitting there talking to them. Now, did they edit anything? I'm not too sure. But there's a lot of stuff that you can jump on Trump about, like him saying stupid things. It wasn't crafted to have the best answers. And so this new media that comes out now are getting people on there to have authenticity, to have longer conversations, to show that that the emperor might not wear clothes sometimes, and that's okay. And so what we see here is that the trust of legacy media is now being further eroded, because you didn't even give me the whole interview, and I had to sue to get the transcripts, and it was all this whole thing. And it's like, just give us the interview. Yeah. Go on, Kamala, go on and talk. And if you can't talk, you shouldn't be running. And you don't edit this. Put out what you say that you're going to put out. If you sit down with her for an hour, put out the hour. It's just
and you can edit it for TV, but like have the second version with the full interview. And several people did this with other interviews with candidates over the last couple of years. Is they, the full thing's online, and the 60 minutes one's shorter because we got time that we got to deal with.
And let's just be clear. I don't think there should be off camera gotcha moments where they're rolling the camera when they're setting up and taking down. And she said that's not acceptable.
No, on the record, off the record, we say
action. Yeah. And you're talking, that's what we want to see. So that's what I think the bigger conversation is the new media of how this is supposed to roll out, how the legacy media is still trying to play some kind of like craft game of narrative, no matter if it's for or against the person. I'm not saying who it is for or against. And this is not what the people want anymore.
Yeah. And I think that is a real problem, is that they're I don't know how they're going to claw back into the thing, because they got dinged so hard. And like I said, I think the perception, even for someone like me that said, like I said, just show us the full transcript and show us the full interview so that we can judge for ourselves if you did something right or wrong. I think that was just the obvious move. And so it's stupid that CBS didn't do that. But now they're trying to claw their way out of this. And like I said, they did nothing wrong. They don't need to prove, but they just could have solved it so much earlier. And my concern is that, like, okay, there's a line in here, first of all, that I would also love to get your guys' opinion on. The reason this is a big deal is because there are ways you can take away people's broadcast like license differently than we treat all other media. Like, should we even treat, I get that at some point the government was saying, we're going to give you this band of frequency that you can use, but you have to, and they gave them stipulations. You have to put an hour of news on, every night, and it's the same thing for local broadcast. Well, they're not even using those waves anymore. So I think Congress should have some sort of way to say, what are the limitations, and why do we treat broadcast journalism different than every other kind of journalism? It should be all First Amendment stuff, in my opinion.
It's traditional. Like, for example, today's the first day in 6 months that we're not on, our Friday show is not on the Tan Talk network. And the reason is I'm paying $150 a week to produce that 1 hour show.
Yeah.
Or a show that's actually 2 hours. And I couldn't get sponsors for it because they wanted to be on more times during the week on the radio, on the AM, FM frequencies that we just all agreed to for all intents and purposes, nobody listens to. But the sponsor, and this is my whole theory about why I wanted to also be on terrestrial radio. People hear that we're on 99.1 and K-Shop and WZQR, and they think we're a big deal.
I think they also want those kind of, radio has always been a thing for politics specifically. I mean, after conservatives sort of took it over in the 90s, it was the way to get that. It was an alternative media is really what it was. It was always anti the establishment of ABC, CBS, and even the cable news stations at that point. So radio's been traditionally, look, radio and podcast are the same thing. It's just that one is broadcast live and the other one is tape delayed, essentially. But so I think people want that kind of live conversation sometimes. And I think that's why radio has done so well for a long, especially talk radio specifically with politics for a long time.
I think the business model is also going toward more the unscripted live, because look, I mean, at the end of the day, it was Joe, Trump, and Jamie in a room. You know how many people had to be in that room for Kamala and Bill and 60 Minutes and editors and producers and cameras and lighting? I think it's just an outdated, bloated model that just does not make financial sense anymore.
The Oprah example is even better, because Oprah, they spent like $2 million. It was Oprah apparently did it, but they spent like $2 million on the set. And the truth is, Joe Biden, and then Donald Trump can show up to a green screen or the lobby of a hotel, and his gets more traction and viewers and listeners and stuff. And I think the authenticity thing, that's what I've been saying too.
If I was the CEO of say maybe not Fox, but CBS or MSNBC right now, I would strip everything down to podcasts. I would say, look, these are my top anchors. You guys all get a studio that you're going to build. I'll give you $100,000 to make your studio, get your editor, and just make a podcast. All of you guys are podcasters now. We're putting on Spotify. We're putting on whatchamacallit on YouTube.
Jim Acosta just left CNN on the air. Don Lemon left, and maybe under cloudy circumstances, but he's doing fine. The mayor's or the governor's brother, Chris Cuomo.
He's on News Nation now, though.
Yeah, but he was doing fine on his own thing before that.
Yeah, it's Chris tricky. I'm torn on that, Matt, because there's part of me that feels that call it an editor is a good thing. Like someone that's above a staff that says, these are like, you got to show me your sources. Like, I'm running through this thing to make sure that it's quality. I think there is something about the institutions that we need that, because we can get over our skis a lot on Twitter and X and podcast. And when people are vying for the attention via the algorithm, they are going to go to outrage and fear a lot more. And that's been a problem at newspapers. That was a problem 100 years ago. It's been a problem on cable news.
So I was going to ask something about that. When I lived about 20 years ago, when I lived in San Francisco, a friend of mine worked at the San Francisco Chronicle selling ad spots. And he had the same problem there that I'm having here due to reach. And he told them in the early 2000s, you need to take this online. And they didn't right away. And most of the newspapers shut down. Matt, I think you alluded to it already. What is the major change that broadcast media needs to do? The traditional, the corporate, the legacy, whatever the hell you want to call it, the network broadcast media needs to do to make themselves able to compete again?
I think me personally, I think they should absolutely just look at somebody who's doing it successfully and profitably. Like look at. I hate some of these examples, but because I don't necessarily like the people, but like Bannon Shapiro and Daily Wire.
Yeah.
Like Ben Shapiro is a highly profitable, highly successful company and business model, and he plays to his own kind of like niche conservative base of and MSNBC or CNN. I think should just do that, strip everything down, and just have these simple sets with these named people that actually can communicate and just do exactly what he's doing, but do it for a Democrat audience or a niche the Democrat. If it's the LGBTQIA plus community plus maybe some different ideas and wrap those up into one, and that's a product that you give to them, or pro labor or fiscal responsibility. A Democrat maybe sort of like fiscally motivated podcast or what have you that shows about like maybe progressive policies of funding education and healthcare for all and stuff like that. And that's their product that they are going to, whatever the product is you can strip this down, cut their costs by 90%. And I think you'll have more bang for your buck.
I think one thing that does cost money, it costs money to have real journalists that are chasing down stories and stuff. So the problem I think is that in the 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, a lot of organizations took Jurg's advice and got online. And the problem is they gave everything away for free online. And we now expect, my generation and below, just expect information to be free to us. That's not.
I don't pay for anything like that yet. Before I pay to get a subscription to the New York Times, I'll pay Ben Shapiro and David Pakman a subscription to theirs to see what I need to be doing when we grow to a level able to charge a subscription.
Yeah, but I think what concerns me about that is that I think like I have a lot of problems with the New York Times. I think they have way too liberal a bias and stuff, but I pay for a subscription.
That's an example. I'm just saying,
no, I know, but
media versus the other guy.
But I think we need those big institutional things. I think we need NBC, ABC, and CBS to do good journalism. I think we need New York Times, Washington Post, Politico. I think we need some of those big, like we need them to do good journalism, and that costs money. And the problem with like local newspapers are dying, and I don't know how to solve that problem, but it's a huge problem because what we've made is everything is national. And even I'm a subscriber to my local paper, but half the stuff in it's national news that I'm getting from other places. I'm like, no, I want to know about what's going on here in this paper. So it's tricky.
Change the format for today. Then I'm already working on the answer to that. I don't know how much. I've shared that with you guys, but one of the things I want to do with Mastiff Media, and I'm going to, because we're actually still broadcasting, obviously, I'm still going to keep some of it a little close to the vest, is return local news to local audiences.
Yeah. But people have to be able to, like, someone's got to pay for it. You know, it's either advertisers or it's people, right?
I've got, well, right. And it's going to be both on some level, mostly advertisers if it's, broadcast like this. But are you familiar with a website called Newsbreak?
No.
All right, let me pull that up quick. I'll show you what it looks like. It's kind of sort of what they're trying to do.
Hey, while he's pulling that up, Matt, I think the best example of this, by the way, is ESPN pulling in Pat McAfee and basically shuttering all their rules. If you got to be in a suit, you can't curse, stuff like
100%.
Right?
And look at his set. It's pretty basic. I mean, it still costs a lot.
It's a gym outside his house. Yeah.
But it still costs to set up. His guys running his cameras and stuff. And he's pulling in a shit ton of money.
And do you know what else?
The guy is stacking paper left and right.
Do you know what else I like about him? He's in Indianapolis. Like, he didn't have to go to Washington or New York or LA. Right. I like the decentralization. Like, we've got the technology to do it. Tucker Carlson was doing his show from Florida at Fox News for the last several years before he got left or got canned or whatever. So, I mean, I think we need regional diversity. And yeah, I'm with you, Matt. If I were CBS, ABC, NBC, MSNBC, of course, NBC is going to try to spin off and probably sell MSNBC. Universal is going to get rid of all their cable channels because cable is also struggling just across the board, other than like Bravo is their only channel that's making any money. And so, which is a sad state of affairs. But yeah, I mean, you've got to kind of take off. I think that professional thing was good for a moment, but I think people now see it as phony. And I think people want those authentic personalities to give them the news, even if now I think those people have to earn the trust. Daily Wire is an example of someone that, like, they fired they got rid of Candace Owens because she was being anti-Semitic and crazy. There was an editorial process there that said, no, this is not okay. And so it kind of like, you still need that sometimes, because my worry is that the David Pachmans,
of course,
the Benny Johnsons.
What's his name? Ben Shapiro's crafting a brand.
Yes,
and that brand, and when he's very clear about it, he's like, we are pro-Israel, we are anti-abortion, we are pro-life, we are a Christian or Jewish conservative news station,
and they take
and you fit into that or you don't.
Yep.
And you don't have to agree with that, but the same thing could be said, and it goes to like your suits and professionalism. There could be a space for that. You get whoever in a suit, and he does his little thing, and he does it. But you don't need a set. You need one camera guy and an editor, and like a team of. You don't need a team of anything in the background. You don't have to need all these makeup guys. Just go in there with your suit.
Yeah, and to me, they've got to be authentic and prove their honesty too, because that's the other thing. You've got your side up now, though. Talk about what you're going to talk about.
Yeah, that's all right. So. What I'm seeing right here isn't exactly the best example, and it's kind of actually is because it's kind of proving my point. Newsbreak, I'm already on this. The two of you could be on this as well as journalists that report news stories, and you can do like actual news events, like a car accident, and put it for your small town, or you can also put your own op-ed in and do something that way. I think the problem with some of this is some of these op-eds get a little nutty, and they're soccer moms or Karens or Todds or whatever that get a little goofy. My theory is, as we develop, I'm looking to actually purchase some small local AM/FM stations that we create a network with, and that geographically are close to each other, so that we minimize staff by having a show like this that's over the whole network. And then the rest goes into automation, similar to some of the stations that we're on, except the programs that we put on in automation are quality programs like The Homeless Conservative, and not just BS programs that, somebody has a podcast and they know the general manager and it gets on for a discounted rate. We actually pick and choose the podcasts that we sell to. And then with regards to local news, there's still somebody at each station at the board that can still do local news that's contributed by vetted local people. So that person that's also contributing to Newsbreak, they contribute to us, except we decide whether or not their content is worthy of being aired. And then if it gets aired, they get paid $20 or $30 per story.
Yeah, and see, that's where that editorial thing matters, Jurgs. You're right, because you're basically saying, does this matter? Does not? The problem is that Daily Wire, by the way, I just looked it up, on pace to make $200 million this year in revenue this year. They were raising some capital a couple years ago, and their valuation in 2023 was well north of $1 billion. A source told Axios. So it's like, it is possible to do this in a way. Now, the problem is that I would say Daily Wire is doing mostly opinion and culture and politics and not news. They're certainly not a news site. I don't think anyone would say. We still need we need people that go, this is what happened, and this is why it's important. With
editorialism, the journalistic analysis would happen in shows like this.
Yeah, but I think the problem is
whether or not they tune in.
Yeah, essentially you have to subsidize that part with the other part that makes money.
If they go at the top of the hour, they know that our show is going to take a break because the local board's going to take over and do whatever traffic, local news, things of that nature. They know that they can tune back in at 8 o'clock sharp right before they leave for work to see what traffic's like.
Yeah. I think there's just not a model for the news only thing now. Like, I don't see a way it can make money with just being straight news.
The most listened to radio stations in any market are the news stations.
No, I think it's sports here. I'd have to look at the Nielsen, but I'm pretty sure sports gets more here. But so I could be wrong.
I think that's going to be solved. Blake,
let me rephrase that. During the drive times, like AM drive time.
Oh yeah, I still think sports might win here. I'm going to look it up just because I think we might. Really? Which is not. I'm not saying that's a lot for. But we have very successful sports stations. But go on, Matt.
So I do think that's going to be solved, and I think that it's. So I agree with you. There's some news agencies like New York Times and WAPO, that are going to be there, LA Times, whatever. and you're gonna need those. But I don't see that this is a unsolvable solution. Look, Yergs, for your local thing, and I think that this is kind of like where we're going with this. And I think that the technology is there already. If you want local reporting, all you need is to have localized APIs for different news stories. Have AI curate those news stories. If it's traffic, if it's whatever, and the curation for the news reporting guys is coming from social media. Somebody's on the scene, somebody's tweeting, somebody's doing this, and all you need to do is curate enough information to get an idea of what the actual fact is, or multiple facts, and present those in a way that allow people to make their own decisions. And so I don't think that it's a news narrative of saying, like, hey, this is what you should think. It's more of a, let's curate this. Let's put this in the API or something from X, Twitter, from different socials, Facebook, maybe even map apps. Like, for example, you can get the API for Google Maps and Apple Maps, so they can tell you about the traffic flows and stuff like that for anything. Put those into an AI algorithm, and then the AI large language model will just put out, honestly, up-to-date news. And then if that's reported by one person, I think that's an easy fix.
What do y'all think about community notes on X and Twitter now? I mean, do we think
I like them?
I think it's the one thing that is a definite improvement over what was happening before, where it was just Twitter staff getting to decide what they fact checked or not. And I think the community notes are a good way to say, like, look, a lot of people are saying this is BS, and they're citing another source that says that's actually not true. I like the real time, not fact checking, because fact checking's got a bad rap.
What is the actual process? What's the actual process for those?
Well, I think the process, the difference is that anyone can try to add a community note to something, right? And I think it's just it's some sort. I don't know what the actual code is doing, but I think it's probably aggregating that stuff and finding the patterns in. If everyone says, actually, like, for example, we were talking earlier, and you said the guy got fired. If the correction by the community notes was, I think everyone says actually he resigned, there'd be a community note at the bottom that says, actually, according to news sources, this is the guy resigned, he didn't get fired, kind of thing, just to clarify any kind of claim made in a big thing, especially if it's gotten a lot of traction. I think my biggest problem with the total democratization of stuff is that it makes it really easy to bend the truth to get the eyeballs. Because, like I said, outrage and fear are the things that are going to drive eyeballs and eyeballs and earballs to people. And that's unfortunate, because I think what most people are doing are, my theory of the reason I started my whole thing was that I think most people are checking out because they go, well, I heard these two things that are so in conflict with each other that they can't both be true, but I can't find a resource that talks about why, like, who's right and who's wrong. Because unfortunately, most media in politics has gone, we're either on the right or on the left.
I think that's where AI and I think social media comes in. And I think I just made a $1 trillion business just sitting here if somebody didn't do it already. But the fact is we have 100 million reporters around the country. Every time you see something, you're tweeting, you're taking a picture, you're writing an email, you're telling somebody, you're texting about a certain situation. And so the fact check is just in the amount of people that see the same thing. If you happen onto an accident on the highway and 50 people go by, 2 people text their husband about it, 2 people take a picture and send it to Twitter, 2 people make a phone call about it. That's honestly, some of it's private, I know, in air quotes, but depending on what company you're using.
Yeah.
But that's all data to confirm a certain incident did happen and how it happened, at time it happened, or whatever. So,
but that's exactly.
You don't have to get people. Yeah, you don't have to get a news anchor there. You already have 50 driving by, and all you need is AI to put it together and say, "Hey, that this is what happened at this time," and it's in almost real time.
Well, not to mention, have you guys watched? I mean, have you guys
paying a traffic guy $50,000 a year to sit around and wait for something to happen?
Exactly.
Well, now here's one thing about traffic and weather, to be fair, do drive. I mean, look, in Oklahoma, not traffic as much in Oklahoma, but weather in Oklahoma drives basically all of the eyes to the local news stations. And honestly, this is really weird. I think because of that, this is my theory. We actually have one of the best local news markets as far as TV news in the country. We actually are kind of a farm team that, like, a lot of people go on to be in bigger markets from here, and when I go watch the local news in other cities, I go, this is garbage. And I think it's because the weather's so crazy here all the news stations invested very heavily in the weather detection stuff. So like Channel 9 here has a radar that no one else has in the country because they invested in this radar that can see it's real time. It doesn't have to do the sweep where you've got a minute or whatever between the radar sweeps. It's incredible during tornado season. It saves lives, literally.
The same way here, I'll bet I could actually do an intelligent weather report on following a hurricane just because I've tracked it. There's their verbiage. I've watched continuously this one particular station.
Yeah.
Where their head meteorologist is more than just a weatherman. I mean, they're real scientists.
Yeah, and the National Weather Center's here in Oklahoma. That's why, is because we have such crazy weather that that's where the National Weather Service is. So everything you're getting anywhere else in the country is partially coming from here in Oklahoma. So I do think that's made the news better because because people do go watch the news for weather and then they stick around for the other stories. However, I will say that every time I've known the background on what really happened, like, so something's on the news or in the newspaper or makes a big splash, and I knew either what really happened because I knew the people it happened to or whatever, they almost always get a huge detail wrong. And I think what we need to remember about the media is that they're just people and they're flawed, and sometimes they just get stuff wrong. It's not disinformation.
And see, that's something that we would actually take pride in with Mastiff Media. When we get something wrong, we come back and just as aggressively fix it.
Just correct it. It's not hard.
We don't put it on the back page or in small print. We say, hey, this is a news item. We screwed something up. You need to know it.
Yeah, the real problem, though, is that the New York Times, I was reading this article on National Review this week about how in a New York Times article about climate change, they had a statement in there that the data shows that more people die from hot weather than cold weather every year. And every scientific study says that's absolutely wrong. Those aren't even really scientific. I mean, they are studies. More people die from cold than hot every year. And so the guy from National Review said, I'm going to send in here's a fact check. You guys should do a correction. He doesn't hear back. And then the New York Times has apparently a moratorium on, well, after 3 weeks, we don't correct things anymore. Frankly, I think you are building a distrust there.
Yeah, where did we get 3 weeks from?
Again, it's arbitrary. But my point is, New York Times, the person writing that article wants you to think that more people die of hot weather than cold weather because that's convenient to their narrative. And when I think that what unfortunately it does is make people like me go, well, I can't trust anything the New York Times writes about climate because they won't even correct what might have been a mistake, or maybe it was on purpose, but correct the thing and say, actually, the data shows, every piece of data shows that more people die every year worldwide from cold than hot. You don't need to don't exaggerate the facts. The problem is that discredits their credibility. And then especially as they start losing their biggest people to go do their own Substacks or podcasts or whatever it is, the problem is that's happening right now. People are leaving New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, all these places to go do their own thing. They have credibility because they were at those institutions. My concern is that how do people get credibility without having been at those institutions?
I think that this is all over, honestly, because, and I'm surprised people haven't done this, because of social media, because of the amount of time people are online and the amount of data that people share a lot. Consensus is the best way to deal with this. The more people that say it's one way or the other, the more truthful something is. And so when companies or news agencies are getting one thing wrong, one major thing wrong, because they talked to a person, they got that wrong, that's already outside of that's factoring in a margin of error that is obviously untruthful. But the more if you could get collaboration of that same thing, and you can get that in real time, I think anymore with the amount of data that's out there, the more truthful something is. And so I don't know why that this is actually even a thing anymore.
Well, I think it's because some people are I think most people in media that are popular right now they know they're being deceptive, and no one's going to call them out on that short, for example. I did one the other day because I thought it was worth doing. I did a short because this lady was claiming that the new HHS website has a Confederate flag at the top of it, and basically claiming that Donald Trump had put the Confederate flag at the top of the HHS website. And she claimed that, look, all I did was I saw this.
Is this the one with the 9 stars or whatever?
Yes. And so, the reason it's a flag with 9 stars and 11 stripes is because it's a 16:11 PNG at the top of the site. And by the way, you can use the Wayback Machine to show that this thing's been there for years. It's just the notice at the top that tells people, hey, here's how you can know this is an official government website. It ends in .gov. It's the note. It was there under for the first Trump administration. It was there under Biden's administration. Same flag, same icon. She claims, oh, if you do a reverse, she's like, don't trust me. I'm just a lady on the internet. Do a reverse Google image search for that image. She knows that no one's going to do that because I did the reverse image search and it just brings up American flags. And furthermore, the flag she's talking about from the Confederacy with 9 stars existed for 1 month in 1861. And it's not the stars and bars one that we're talking about. And it has 3 stripes, not 11 stripes. And like the point is, she was being deceptive to get eyeballs in front of her. I know she's not a news organization. She doesn't have a podcast, but people with podcasts, Benny Johnson does this too. And
can we just please take note of how much Blake knows about a Confederate flag really quick though?
Well, I had to look it up because I was like,
this guy, you have a lot of information about a Confederate flag.
I had to look it up. I had to look it up. Well, I honestly, you know what I didn't know, which I was kind of ashamed to not know, as someone that likes history. I had confused the stars and bars ones with the X. That's the battle flag because they had to change because the actual Confederate flag looked too much like the U.S. flag, and they were sometimes firing at each other, and so they were like, okay, we can't have this on the battlegrounds. And so what everyone thinks of as the Confederate flag was not the actual Confederate flag; that was just the battle flag. Correct. And so anyway, I did not actually know that difference. And so, maybe I was a little ashamed to not know that.
Ours is a totally separate flag too.
Here's what I think. Here's what I think Mastiff should do. And so I'm gonna give you your $1 billion plan. I want 5% of it. You make $1 billion, give me 5%. No, get somebody to program
a bunch with that. Yeah,
I'll buy a long way. No. I mean, but make Mastiff if it's local. A AI curated, contributor focused media, so so people can be part of it and they can just take part of your media, but be in consensus, I guess, validators. And AI is just uses it to curate it and actually populates your site, plus gives you scripts and pops out scripts for your reporters to report just real time news.
I will say AI is not great at the news part yet. It gets things wrong a lot of times.
But whoa. It's different than saying a news part, but having people-powered validation and consensus, which is different.
Still have to
taking a headline and making a summary, and then allowing people in the area to say comment or whatever, and then it reads those comments and adds it to the news to understand to say refine details or to make trustworthiness out of certain facts is different, and it's really good at that right now.
You know what else I think we need to do, Matt, that's similar to that, whether it's us or the media in general. I think they need to, like, everything about media right now is niching down. Daily Wire, they know who their audience is, they know what their brand is. We talked about that. It's the same thing for Fox News. Fox News is older, like Fox News's demographic is definitely 50 plus, probably even older than that. It's probably 55, 60 plus or something.
Oh yeah, it's people's dads at this point.
You know what I mean? So they know their brand. Like the other
our
thing
dads.
So they're niching down to their audience. They also need to niche down to their sources. So my point is, instead of having one guy that's trying to be, the face of CBS News that talks to you all the time, I think you have not just an economist, like you have someone that just does trade economics, and you like, those are the people you have in your regular rotation. And political things are going to have journalists do this as Fox News contributors or NBC News contributors. They have people from the press that they pay, they have contracts with, they come in and do that stuff. That's great. I still like that kind of thing. But I say you go even further down. You niche down to, look, this guy is your local news thing. As an example would be, you have a local plumber tell you how this works, or the local sewage guy tells you how the sewage thing works. My point is, more really, really niche down sourcing, I think, is more interesting.
I have a question from that, Ben. Mm-hmm. So every YouTube coach, every podcast coach worth any level of their salt will say that we need to be either conservative or progressive / liberal. Up the middle is anything but. I was conservative on some things today, like the background checks, progressive on others. And, what was that?
Nothing.
Oh, yeah. And point being, are we being too broad? Meanwhile, everybody that I talk to in a listening audience, when I tell them about what the middle is about and what your radio is about, I always get, wow, that's great. And those are the people that should matter if they're the listeners.
So
which direction do we go?
So here's my opinion on this. I think that a lot of people, when they start off, they want to go extreme one side or the other so they can start automatically collecting their listeners.
Yeah.
Or because being shock value, being extreme really is easy way to cut in. You know, I am extreme, and the more extreme you are, the faster you cut, the sharper your knife is. But I think at the end of the day, the longer that you want, the longer you are around and the longevity, you do two things. Number one, you do three things. One, you figure out your voice, you figure out how you and what interests you. Two, your audience figures out you and what interests them. And then three, you guys work together. And that niche kind of comes out of this longevity of like just doing something. I mean, look at Joe Rogan. What is his niche anymore? He started out like a totally different podcast than he is now. Is he conservative? Is he liberal? Is he progressive? I would say he's more of like, I would say he's progressive. That's what he is.
Progressive is the best. Did you make that up? Because that is genius, Matt.
Yes, I just did just now. I think he's progressive, which is something that just came out of Joe being Joe, right?
Well, I think his brand is real conversations. That's what the brand is. The brand is not
the brand is real conversations, but everybody does the conversations. But his kind of conversations are different. He's not going to talk about trying on dresses or trying on clothes. He's going to talk. He's going to be progressive. He'll talk about his car and him he just made a new Tesla the other day, and him and the new EV company just put out big fenders on it. That's
he talks about things that interest him, essentially. So if it interests Joe Rogan, that's the brand.
Exactly.
Here's the tricky thing about that. You ask, like, what's the right way to do it? Here's the thing. You've got to think. There's three questions that I think that are important to ask. Whether you are the news organization or the person. Okay. The first is, what is the what's the ideal here? What's the purpose? Because like my ideal is that I feel like most media has done that. They've gone right or left. And what they're doing is trying to give people the information they want to hear and not make them rub up against something they don't. Because you're right. It's a lot easier to get. Most people want to just hear what they want to hear. Most people want to be in their filter bubble, and that's fine. My concern with that is that if you answer that question, so what's the ideal? If the ideal is I want to make money, then yes, you should niche down to something where you're going to tell your audience exactly what they want to hear, and they're never going to bump up against anything they don't, because that is more popular right now and will make you more money than going down the middle. But then if you want to say, my goal is to have a better informed citizenry. So that's my goal, is to say, look, I think there's a bunch of people that have checked out of politics because they don't like the far right. They don't like the far left. They don't know who to trust. They feel like, and I think part of that is you have to be so for me, I'm going to be honest from step one. And then I'm going to say, as I build my audience, you should know that's what to expect. Does that make sense? Now, that might be a slower growing audience thing. I think a good example of this is like the Dispatch and the Free Press are good examples of people that left, call them legacy media stuff. Dispatch is like Steve Hayes and Jonah Goldberg, who were Fox News contributors and previously at National Review and some other places. The Free Press is Barry Weiss, who was at New York Times, and she's gotten a lot of people from those kind of legacy media places that have left those places. They've come to the Free Press because they felt like they were saying, for Barry Weiss specifically, it was that she is a gay Jewish woman who was basically forced out of the New York Times because she was going, this DEI stuff is insane and anti-Semitic, and so is the trans stuff, that like, I'm a gay woman and I'm saying some of this stuff is bananas that you're saying I can't say in the New York Times because it will piss off our readership. And I think that's wrong, because I'm seeing unjust things happening. And so she goes and starts her own thing. Both of them are subscriber based, which means that you are paying, like the Dispatch is entirely subscriber based, which means they're saying, this is what we're going to give you. You give us $100 a year, you get the right to comment. Some of their stuff is newsletters that's free. And, they all have a few things outside of the paywall, but most of their content is behind it. And Daily Wire is kind of doing this thing too. Although Daily Wire has got more public facing stuff, but it's like you get the second hour of Ben Shapiro show, for example. I think that might work, except that you got to make sure you're not a slave to your audience.
Is Daily Wire Ben Shapiro's? Is that
Ben Shapiro? Yes. And what's his partner's name?
Jeremy.
What is his name? Jeremy something. Yeah, you're right.
I want to say Corbyn, but that's the UK guy. It's Jeremy. I can't remember.
James Corbyn is the UK guy.
Yeah, Jeremy something. They own it, and like I said, it's scheduled to make about $200 million this year. So I mean, there is money there, but like I think for people, the problem is that if you niche down too far, you are not really getting everything. And for me, like I said, I subscribe to the Dispatch and National Review and New York Times, and that costs a lot of money. Like I'm trying to do this as a job too. Right. Most people we can't expect every American to spend what I'm spending on subscriptions either. So it's like, how do you give enough?
I know they got to get that sugar mama like you got.
You know what I mean? That's the tricky part.
That's
the sugar mama. That is the tricky part. You got to get that game.
Well, but they got
that game.
But I mean, I would like every American citizen to be.
That's where fear comes in. They can still get it, and they can still get. This is my beef with like the Washington Post and all these different that charge a subscription for all access. Is that you get like 7 free articles, and then after you use those 7, you're done. It's got your IP address. You're done.
Yeah.
Instead, give that little bit of a snippet, the headline, and maybe the first paragraph. So if anybody that wants just the meat, or just the taste, they can get that taste and move on.
I think newsletters is the way to do that, because you could actually say, here's a summary of some big news stories kind of thing, and here's some links to some more in-depth stuff if you want to pay.
You're saying about how you're talking about you're one of the few people, and I agree. I don't have cable TV.
And I do still have that too.
Most of my TV is YouTube, which I do pay monthly because that's what I broadcast on. But then I have Netflix, which is my parents' account. I'm one of the extensions of their account, and I have YouTube TV, which is another extension of one of their accounts.
Yeah, I think it's just clearly not a priority for most Americans to pay for news, and I think that has to be a switch that flips at some point, because someone has to. When it was newspapers, the truth is the classifieds were really, and the ads were. I mean, your subscription cost was not the thing they were making the most money.
Blake, I just subscribed to your Substack.
Oh gosh, I've not written it in a long time. I need to get back.
Well, you better get on it. I mean,
put it in the chat. On it. Oh, yeah, put it in the chat. I'll put a plug for that.
There's a link to it on the homelessconservative.com.
Do you have a Substack?
It's going on. It's not a Substack. It's a blog that's going on yergs.com.
Oh, okay.
That's part of the phone calls I got to make later today. But here's what I had been thinking about with Mastiff Media, and I thought about what Blake was talking about, is that not everybody is a nerd and wants to get all kinds of news sources.
And I don't think people should be a junkie like I am. I don't think if it would be, it's not the way our government's supposed to work. It's not the way politics is supposed to work. I enjoy this stuff. But
what I think the modern guy that's sitting in his easy chair reading the newspaper, he's going to be reading his tablet or his phone, or maybe, scrolling through his smart TV. And he's going to hit all of the ones that he's got bookmarked that are his favorites, where he gets a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and gets the free version of whatever he wants. And then there's going to be the part that's niched down to the right or to the left or even to the middle, where he pays a subscription for and gets, the additional information, better interactivity with the hosts, things of that nature. And that limits their need for paying uber number of subscriptions, when that's the part that they can actually pick and choose.
Yeah.
Yet they still have a decent amount of access to those multiple sources, at least, like I said earlier, to get that taste.
And that's why I think every American should have one news source that they feel like they can go to and trust for just like the basics and some opinion stuff. And that can be the local paper, that can be New York Times, that can be Dispatch, National Review, whatever. Like, you can kind of niche it down. Although I think my problem still with a lot of those things is that they do become left versus right. And very often you can't you can't go to Breitbart.com and find anything negative about Donald Trump. You will not, it does not exist. So that cannot be your source if you're on the right, in my opinion. Right. And people don't like, the truth is people just do not like, and it goes back to Matt's point about Congress, the fact that congressional Democrats won't call out Joe Biden and congressional Republicans won't call out Donald Trump, with very rare exceptions to that rule. That's a real big problem, in that that becomes the norm, and it becomes, well, I'm tuning out that source. It's ridiculous that I have to send my friends on the left sources from the New York Times and Washington Post for them to believe it, that something's true. And my friends on the right, I've got to send them a Fox News thing that says that it's true for them to believe it. That's what I really am tired of. And I think Jurgs is right. There's more independents now than there ever have been. Now, I think most of those independents lean very much to the left or the right, and they're just tired of Democrats and Republicans. I don't think most people are really in the middle, but yeah.
I don't think the reason for that is so much really where they are at, so much as it is that's where they're getting subscribers and that's where they're getting likes.
Yes.
And that's what Gary Vaynerchuk said. Stop creating content for the likes. Create the content for what you know people want.
Yeah, but it's a lot. It's a lot easier to do it for the likes, though.
I disagree with that. I think you should. Okay, so here's my philosophy.
Go ahead, Matt.
I think
say, do you want easy or do you want valuable?
Oh, well, you're right, but Benny Johnson's getting paid a lot more than I am right now, and he's just you know what I mean.
No, so I know I don't have a
mention him for. I can't stand that dude.
Well, I know that's why I mentioned him, is because he's making a lot more than I am, and he's doing it the wrong way, I think. But he's doing it the way that makes him more money than.
Here's my philosophy on making a podcast and audience. So my audience is now around 100,000 for my daily crypto news, and I asked them the other day in a poll, and I'm trying to find this poll really quick, because it just shows like it just shows
100,000 daily followers. Why are you not plugging both of us?
You guys, no one can. I'm not crypto related. You got to know your audience.
It's not a crypto. It's not a politics show, guys. I don't do politics on my show.
You got to know. That's a niche, and I think that's a good thing to have. It's like that niche down.
You did something about regulation.
However, really quick, I thought this was interesting. And my philosophy.
Are you putting that on the screen?
No, but my philosophy of building an audience is doing what you want to do, but you have to do it consistently. A lot of people don't just make an idea and just do it for years and years. So this is our second year doing daily crypto news, and I did this 3 years with Decrypt Media, and then another 3 years with my own Crypto 101. So this is my actual fourth show of the other one I produced, and so a lot of people have followed me. But like, if you ask them,
I was following you since I lived in LA.
Man, all right, my man, thank you. But so a lot of people that follow me, they don't know. What I'm trying to say is a lot of people that follow me don't really know where I stand, and that's what gives me my own niche when it comes to like these different things. So like I did a poll, like, well, how do I come across politically? And 64% said I'm balanced and independent. 14% said I'm liberal or progressive, and then 20% said I'm right leaning. And so so it just kind of shows like you don't have to be whatever your audience wants you to be. And it's not like you're catering to your audience, but you're bringing the audience in and you're having consistency. So it's not that they agree or don't agree with you, or they think that they like you because you're progressive or conservative or whatever. It's that they get to know you and they know what to expect from you. And once you get that and have that consistency, then I think then is when you start really niching down on how you want to engage your audience. But it's all about being familiar.
Yeah. And I think people want to know the individuals more. I think the reading from a teleprompter, a script that someone else wrote, I don't think people are interested in that. I think they do want to see the personality. I think that's why Pat McAfee is so successful on ESPN. I realize that's sports, but I think it is.
And he gets so much shit too.
Right. And he gets
so much shit.
And he's wildly opinion. I mean, he really is the sports version of sort of the, I don't want to say far right, far left kind of, but I mean, it is entertainment. The point is to be,
he's the Howard Stern of sports.
Yeah, it's sort of Howard Stern-y. It's a little bit, but the point is it's making a lot of money, and I think it's refreshing. I think that's when you compare that to what's going on with the suits that are reading the thing. Now, ESPN's always had a kind of tongue-in-cheek kind of thing, which is also, I mean, they've always kind of had that. But CBS does not. They take themselves very seriously, and there is something funny about David Murrow from ABC got a bunch of crap when he was out in the wildfires because his suit was clothespin in the back to make it more form-fitting on him, which I thought I'm like, dude, that's a producer that did that. That wasn't even him. That's not like he was like, I'm so vain, I've got to do it. But it does show
they do that.
But it does show the sort of fakeness of it in some ways. It kind of drops the this is a production. They're trying to make him look sexy on the news, and there is something that feels a little gross about that, right? I'd almost rather him just go out there and just be honest about it, and I think people are willing to forgive it when it's honest.
there's another independent example of that. Brian Tyler Cohen used to be in this skinny suit, skinny tie, every single episode he did. He sometimes released 4 episodes a day that were like because of news that day.
Yeah.
He would be in a different suit for all 4 of those 10-minute videos. Ever since Kamala Harris lost, he went, need cash.
He's in hoodies and stuff now.
He's in he's in hoodies.
Yeah.
He's in t-shirts. He's in all that.
I think people want that, like, same. That's why I don't dress up for mine, because that's just not who I am. I have no problem with dressing up. It's not that I have a problem with that. If I wore, like, I've got a buddy that, he has a job where he does wear suits every day. So for him being on camera, not in a suit, would not feel authentic, kind of thing, And so I think people trust. I mean, my story about that, just quickly about suits, is that I was at a local energy company. They have like a kind of sort of cafeteria thing where anyone can come in, the public, and we were working there. And it was me and my buddies who we all did tech stuff. So we all have like hoodies, hats, Mac laptops in front of us. And this guy comes up and he's like, "What do you guys do?" We're like, "We do technology for retail and networking stuff." It was a VP of the technology at Devon Energy. And he saw us in the crowd of suits and ties and PCs. And he went, "Those guys with the hoodies are probably smart with technology. And I have a technology question." We got stereotyped by what we were wearing. If we would have been in suits and ties to like look the part, he would have never seen us and paid any attention to us. So I think but if I go to a bank, I wouldn't want the guy to be in a hoodie. Maybe that's wrong, but like there is a trust thing there. And I think that's changing the news.
You're literally talking about stereotyping. I mean, it's like, do you clutch your purse when a black guy comes walking towards you?
No, but I'm not talking about race stereotyping. I'm talking about dressing for the job you have. And my point is, I don't think the suit is helping people's credibility on the news anymore like they did at some point. And so I think that's one of the things that needs to go away potentially.
I just heard a black dude do a joke about that. He got in an elevator and the lady there clutched her purse.
Oh yeah, that was great. Yeah.
And he goes, "Let it go, bitch," and he slugs her.
That was a good joke. I remember that joke. That was a good joke.
I love when you don't see where it's going. That's comedy.
Oh well.
I've got a hard out at noon today, guys. But but I think these are huge questions that no one's going to have answered like right now. But I think it's something that citizens have to think about, and something that these news organizations obviously have to think about if they want to keep making any money.
I don't care about them. It's about you guys. You guys think about it and make the $1 billion company. Just give me 5%.
Yeah, but I want the legacy media to do better than they have been. I want them to do a better job too.
I don't want them to do anything. They failed and they continue to fail, and they're stubborn, and they're ego driven by stupid CEOs, and I don't care. That
is a mistake that not only the San Francisco Chronicle but so many other newspapers made 20 years ago.
Yeah, but I want some institutions. I don't care if they're new institutions, but I do want there to be institutions where there is some sort of editorial. I do like that. I think that's good. Like I said, the Daily Wire even has that to some degree. And these other ones that I mentioned, Free Press, Dispatch, these kind of things, they're going to have people that say, "No, you can't publish that on our site because you didn't show me your sources, or you didn't, I think that we still need institutions. I don't think we should just burn it all down to be individuals. But I'd be fine if like CBS gets replaced by a sort of like startup, Daily Wire-ish kind of thing. I'm okay with that as long as there's some sort of institution that exists. I think we can burn those things down without really realizing that there is some good that comes with them. But I'm fine with things replacing them.
Do you guys follow Axios at all?
Yeah, I mean, I pay attention to some of it, but I do. I mean, I pay attention to a lot of things, but it's
Their local email blasts are pretty good.
I haven't done that, but I might look at that. I feel like Axios gets some things pretty wrong sometimes that in the interest of being first.
It's a very similar business model to what I want to do, except that they're actually a paid staff that they keep locally as opposed to contractors.
Yeah. All right, guys. Good show. I'll talk to you. Actually, I will not. I think I might be gone next week, but I'll let you know, Yergs.
All right, guys. Well done. Good fights. Have a good weekend. Don't get what I've got because you'll be sleeping quite a bit. Matt, we got to talk more about the news thing. I like a lot of the ideas that you had, and I'll definitely pay you for it.
I got ideas for day. Execution?
Yeah.
No. Ideas? Yes.
Well, that's I'll take care of that part.
All
All
right,
right,
man. I'll
everybody.
talk to you.
We'll see you Monday. And don't forget, you can get Matt at dailycryptonews.net and info@deemerforcongress.com. Blake is at Blake at thehomelessconservative.com. Check out DNR Studios by going to dnrstudios.com. I can actually put these on the, I don't know why now I'm not putting them on the screen. Check out DNR Studios. We're starting there later this month, early next month. Go to dnrstudios.com. Get your prescription today. Jane Stahl is at studiobbb.org. Philip Blackett, by the way, is at Philip Blackett. 1 L in Philip, 2 T's in Blackett. That's his social media that he gave us. We don't have a graphic for that yet. Blake Fisher is the Homeless Conservative. You can find him at Blake at thehomelessconservative.com. You can get us all news, NEWZ, at Yergz, YERGZ.com. And for any other show notes and other information, go to yergz.com or mastiff.media. That's it, gang. I'm going to go take a nap. And actually, I'm going to get a lot more other work done. Thanks for joining. Thanks for coming off the porch and running with the big dogs. Thanks for going up the middle. We will see you Monday.